Hello everyone, welcome to Pediatrics by Dr. Anand. So now in this session we're going to talk about most commons in pediatrics. In this session we're going to talk about most commons in pediatrics. I'll be asking you 5 to 6 random questions and you try to answer me the most commons in pediatrics. Okay, so number one, the most common metabolic disorder. So what do you think, which is the most common metabolic disorder? Usually metabolic disorders, are they autosomal dominant or are they autosomal recessive? So any idea, what do you think? So remember, the most of the metabolic disorders are usually autosomal recessive in inheritance. Okay, you remember that. It is important. Okay, most common metabolic disorders are usually autosomal recessive. Hello everyone, welcome to Pediatrics by Dr. Anand. In this session we're going to talk about most commons in pediatrics. The topic will be regarding genetic disorder and the subtopic is most common. It's a small 3 minutes talk. We'll be discussing few 8 to 10 important aims and enhanced questions. So the most first question, most of the metabolic disorders are, the options are, they are autosomal dominant or autosomal recessive. So the answer is, the most of the metabolic disorders are autosomal recessive. Okay, autosomal recessive. Will you remember this one, this much? Very good. Then second one, you should know most common chromosomal disorder. If I ask you which is the most common chromosomal disorder, is it the Turner syndrome, or is it Patau syndrome, is it Edward syndrome, or is it Down syndrome? So what do you think? People who are online, what random guesses do you think? Which is the most common chromosomal disorder which you can make out? So the answer is Down syndrome. Trisomy 21. Down syndrome is the most common chromosomal disorder. Okay, very good, Dr. Shabir. Beautiful answer. So two questions we have already covered. We have five more to go. Which is the most common cause of intestinal obstruction in Down syndrome? It's a very simple question. Which is the most common cause of intestinal obstruction in a case of Down syndrome? Or I would say the most common GI, gastrointestinal abnormality in Down syndrome. Any random guesses? What do you think? Very good. Yes. So see, D for Down syndrome, D for duodenal atresia. D for Down syndrome, D for duodenal atresia. Most common intestinal obstruction, or I would say gastrointestinal emergency in Down syndrome is duodenal atresia. Very good. We have a participant known as Rags. Very good, Rags. So duodenal atresia is the right answer. And you know that you also see double bubble sign in duodenal atresia. We all know that we have single bubble, double bubble, and triple bubble sign. Double bubble sign is seen in duodenal atresia. Triple bubble sign it is seen in jejunal atresia, and single bubble sign it is seen in congenital hypertrophic pyloric stenosis. Yes, very good, perfect. Okay, so four questions over, four more are left. Okay, what is the shape of the skull in Down syndrome? Can anyone tell me what is the shape of the skull in a case of Down syndrome? Or I would say, which craniosynostosis you will see in a case of Down syndrome? What is craniosynostosis? Premature fusion of the sutures? Yes or no? Premature fusion of the sutures. So please remember, the craniosynostosis or the skull abnormality seen in Down syndrome is nothing but brachycephaly. Please remember brachycephaly. Okay, like remember, one is brachydactyly, one is brachycephaly. Okay, brachycephaly is nothing but premature fusion of the coronal suture. I hope you have read about the craniosynostosis. Yes or no? So yes, brachycephaly is the most common craniosynostosis in a case of Down syndrome. You should remember that. Okay, where do you see Mickey Mouse pelvis? Where do you see Mickey Mouse pelvis? Again, that's a very important exam question. If anyone can tell me, where do you see Mickey Mouse pelvis? Where you see this outward flaring of the iliac wings? Very good. Yes. So Down syndrome. Hello, Dr. Girish Raheja, one of my very close friend and junior. So very good, Girish. So Mickey Mouse pelvis. Mickey Mouse pelvis, there's an outward flaring of the iliac wings. It is seen in Down syndrome. Please remember Mickey Mouse pelvis. And if I say champagne glass pelvis, so Girish, what do you think? Champagne glass pelvis, where do you see? So multiple times we have discussed this in our classes. Champagne glass pelvis, it is seen in achondroplasia. Very important. Achondroplasia. Remember achondroplasia? Short limb dwarfism, FGFR3 gene mutation, autosomal dominant inheritance. Yes or no? So yes, very good, Girish. Very good to to see you. So very good. Yes, we have Dr. Shiv Prasad. Yes. So remember, champagne glass pelvis, it is seen in achondroplasia, whereas Mickey Mouse pelvis, it is seen in Down syndrome. Okay, so 5 questions over, 3 more questions, then the class is over. Okay, which is the most common congenital heart disease in Noonan syndrome? Anyone? Today's topic is genetics, and today's topic is most common. Which is the most common congenital heart disease in Noonan syndrome? Have you heard of Noonan syndrome? A male boy, yes or no? Male boy with a webbed neck, with developmental delay, yes or no? With puberty problems? Yes. So very good. Most common congenital heart in Noonan syndrome is pulmonary stenosis. Okay, please remember, most common congenital heart in Noonan syndrome is pulmonary stenosis. Okay, very good, Rags. I am very good student you are. Most common congenital heart in Noonan syndrome is pulmonary stenosis. Most common congenital heart in Turner syndrome. Anyone? Turner? Have you heard the name Turner syndrome? Have you heard a female with a webbed neck with 45XO karyotype? A female with a webbed neck with 45XO karyotype with widely spaced nipples. Have you heard these names? Have you heard the name Turner syndrome? These are the very important points. Female, webbed neck, with the widely spaced nipples. Okay, and very important, her IQ will be normal. IQ will be normal, whereas Noonan syndrome, the IQ will not be normal. Okay, very good. We have Kinjal Patel. Very good. She's answering. The most common congenital heart in Turner syndrome is bicuspediotic valve, and most common cause of death in Turner syndrome is coarctation of aorta. Okay, most common congenital heart in Turner is bicuspidiotic valve. Most common cause of death in Turner syndrome is coarctation of aorta. Okay, which is the most common neural tube defect? If I ask you about the neural tube defect, which is the most common neural tube defect in North India? What do you think? Have you heard the name neural tube defect? Where the neural tube somewhere it is not fusing properly, maybe at the cephal part, maybe at the caudal part. If it is not fusing at the cephal part, I might have a anencephaly. If my neural tube is not fusing properly in the caudal part, I might land up into a spina bifida. So the most common, very important, the most common birth defect, if I talk about the most common birth defect, if I talk about, is a neural tube defect. Okay, spina bifida, yes, it is very common. Yes, spina bifida is very common, that you should know. Okay, yeah, very good, very right. Okay, can anyone tell me, yeah, it was a very important question. Most common condition characterized by disproportionate short stature. I'll give you a toffee. This is the last question. If anyone can help me out, I'll repeat again. Most common condition characterized by disproportionate short stature. What is the answer for that? Most common condition. It was a recent AIMS question. Most common condition characterized by disproportionate short stature. Have you heard the name short stature? Height less than third centile. Then we have proportionate and disproportionate short stature. In the disproportionate short stature, we have something known as short limb dwarfism and short trunk dwarfism. Short limb dwarfism and short trunk dwarfism. Yes or no? Yeah. In that short limb dwarfism, we have something known as achondroplasia. And yes, achondroplasia is the most common condition characterized by disproportionate short stature. Okay, disproportionate short stature. Most common condition characterized by disproportionate short stature is achondroplasia. Achondroplasia, remember, you have short limb dwarfism, achondroplasia, FGFR3 gene mutation, champagne glass pelvis. Okay, it is important. Okay, and yeah, that's it. So these were the important questions for today. Daily updates. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much, Girish, for helping me out all the time. And thank you, all the beautiful juniors. This session will be free on YouTube. You can watch anytime. Topic was genetic disorder. We had covered 10 questions on most common. For the newcomers who have joined, you can join our free pediatric WhatsApp group. State-wise we have, and the number is 9999897081. Have a wonderful day ahead. I mean tomorrow. Right now it's night. Have a wonderful tomorrow, and good night.